Should we build our authentication from scratch? Oh,
I like I
here's a
like what
flame war.
Raphael said about this a lot better than what DHH said. So Chris Oliver, Jason Charns, who I do remote Ruby with, they have this thing with Laravel, right? And in my heart, I truly don't believe they've ever written a line of Laravel. Okay, I don't know if that's true or not, but I have that deep seated feeling that they just look at Laravel, they're like, oh, it's got all these cool things, and they like to talk about like how it would be really cool if Rails had some of those things. One of those is built-in authentication. So whenever someone from the Rails core team comes on our podcast, they ask them to add authentication into Rails, right? And so they all say no, right? But Raphael had the best answer, and his answer was like, so we were talking about Devise, and like, Devise is like the de facto solution. But like some apps couldn't upgrade to Rails 7 yet because they're waiting on Devise release and like this and that. And his whole thing was like, Devise feels like it's almost too much, which I like agree with to an extent. And he's like, what I feel like would be better is instead of building action authentication or whatever it is, we build a generator that will just scaffold out a simple basic authentication system for you, the controllers, the views, whatever, the models. And that be it. It just scaffolds out a basic authentication system. So from there, and it doesn't throw it all into engines or everything, so you can't touch it. It like just scaffolds out something simple for you. And DHH was, when we asked that question to DHH, he was like, I feel like I should make a video and to show you how you can create an authentication system in Rails. And Raphael was in the chat because we live streamed that. And he's like, I think my idea is better. And I agree. If there was just like a simple way to like scaffold out a basic Rails authentication system, I feel like that would be really cool. Should you be building your authentication from scratch? DHH claims it's not that hard. I would rather not, personally. That was one of his little opinions. I was like, yes, it's doable, right? You should be able to, you can probably do it, but like, there's so many areas, right? And there's so many laws now, and there's so much like, I just don't want to do it, right? I'm scared.
Yeah.
And
Well,
DJ's whole point was like, don't be scared. And Raphael was like, what if we just gave you the starting point? I think that's the better approach.
I mean, the thing about it is that it's not hard to do if you know what you're doing, because
Right.
a lot of the Rails provides a lot of the tools, like has secure password for your models or has secure token, and a lot of these things are already built in. You just put those pieces together, so it's not like you're writing any encryption code. You're having to do a lot of stuff. It's just, I'm kind of liking the idea of either some form of education or a generator, something to say, hey, these pieces already exist in Rails, and here's how you can put them together to create a basic one.
right.
And then you can build upon that from there.
I had kind of a conversation with Kristen about this a few months ago, which was, I think it's great to go on the weekends on your little for funsies project and build yourself an authentication from scratch so you can learn and figure out how they work. In a production environment, God no. Why? It's been done. Now, Devise, way too heavy for me. I tried to put Devise in a project, it was years ago, but I actually spent more time trying to customize Devise to what I needed than just writing my own thing. There is one called Sorcery, though, which I really like because it's a very lightweight kind of framework for authentication that you build up. So it is kind of that starting point as a gem that you can just put in. But building your own from the ground up, other than a learning experience on the side, I would never do that in production. It's been done by,
Yeah, I would want like several experienced engineers to be on that. And if it's just you with your little bootstrap side project, I would recommend saving yourself a lot of heartache down the road and not do that. Right. Yeah. Because it's all fun and games until I, the customer, get an email in my inbox that says our data's been breached. And then I figure out what I'm going to do with you,
Yeah.
Like that's not fun. No one wants to do that. So unless you, and I feel like if you think you can do it right now by yourself, then you're the person who really shouldn't do it.
Yeah, because once you've been in Rails long enough, you figure out there's a gym for that. The gym's been around. It's mature. It's not going anywhere, and it's open source. So even if the people who are maintaining it right now get run over by a bus, somebody else can pick it up. It's not going to go away. Why would I do that?
And I would say if you are going to roll your own, then you should be a responsible engineer and have people come in to penetration test it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You should hire someone to test that because it shouldn't be you, and you really don't want to leave this up to chance.
And for the love of all that's holy, do TDD.
Yeah, you got to do TDD.
I mean, if you never do TDD in your life, if you're writing authentication, you do it there.
Yeah,
because that can't break.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's like algorithms out there that you could, and like the OWASP cheat sheets and stuff that you could use to like, find and plug the holes. But I guess when we're saying this, a lot of this is under the assumption that the developer is going to do this. And I just don't have that assumption of most developers, right? Because I know myself and I'm pretty lazy. And that's one of those things that you can't be lazy about, right? So I would just not do it.
Yeah. Much better things to spend your time on learning than something that's been done to death already, honestly.
Yeah.
I do think it's important to understand how authentication works,
Absolutely.
But designing your own from scratch, I don't see a need for it anymore.
If you like this clip and want to watch another one, you can click right here. Or if you want to watch the full video, you can click here.